I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to this evening's meeting, this beautiful Tuesday evening of March 7th, here at downtown Hot Springs at City Hall. And we'll begin with an invocation by Joshua Tompkins, and I'll lead the pledge. All rise.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this night. We thank you for this beautiful weather and the opportunity to be here. God, continue to be with these leaders as they lean heavily upon your will to guide Hot Springs. Thank you, Father, for their leadership. Thank you to this board and to just everybody here. God, that you continue to bless us and to guide us according to your will. In your name, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Director Aaron Holliday.
Here.
Director Phyllis Beard.
Present.
Director Marcia Dobbs-Smith.
Here.
Director Dudley Webb.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia.
Here.
Director Steve Trusty.
Here.
Mayor Pat McCabe.
Here. This time we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions to the agenda, or items to be moved from consent agenda to new business? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move, Mayor.
Part. Motion by Director Garcia, seconded by
Second.
Director Dobbs-Smith. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Agenda is adopted. At this time, we'll consider approval of the minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting of February 21st, 2023. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So
Director
moved.
Trustee, seconded by Director Garcia. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. We have some very special guests here today, and we have a couple proclamations. The first is Women's History Month. Director Garcia will read that and present that to Stephanie Alderice.
And Stephanie, we ask you to come forward as being the recipient of this tonight's proclamation. Stephanie is a very successful female business owner and entrepreneur. And March is Women's History Month. During Women's History Month, we celebrate the countless women who have fought tirelessly and courageously for equality, justice, and opportunity in our entire nation. We also reaffirm our commitment to advancing rights and opportunities for women and girls in the United States and Hot Springs, Arkansas. We are mindful that we are building on the legacy of recognized trailblazers and unsung heroines who have guided American history and continue to shape its future. Whereas Hot Springs recognizes the month of March as Women's History Month, established in 1987 by Congress to celebrate the contributions American women have made to strengthen the nation since its inception. And whereas Women's History Month honors women of every race, status, and ethnicity who have challenged the social and legal structures that have kept women's labor underappreciated and underrepresented throughout history. And whereas American and Hot Springs women have been leaders not only in securing their rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also at the forefront of every major social change movement in history, and paving the way for future generations to enjoy the unalienable rights, duties, and responsibilities afforded equally to all citizens of the United States of America. And whereas each woman is extraordinary in her own way, proving that women working inside the home or outside in academia, science, technology, business, labor, governance, and more areas maintain the crucial role in every sphere of society. And whereas when women succeed, families and their communities prosper. Now, therefore, Pat McCabe, Mayor, the City of Hot Springs, and on behalf of the entire Board of Directors, does proclaim March 2023 as Women's History Month in Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Very good. Thank you.
Sure. I wanted to start off by thanking Director Garcia, Mayor McCabe, and everyone for both the invitation and making this possible. When Director Garcia reached out, it sort of unlodged a memory for me of when I was in an after-school club in elementary school, and the leaders had to call my mom and say, "Stephanie signed up for the boys tackle football club." And I said to my mom, "It's okay, I'll be gentle if they let me play. Can I still join?" And the answer was no. But that was in the late 80s. And it's interesting to me that it was around this time that President Reagan signed the Women's Business Ownership Act into law, which created government support for women business owners and eliminated the requirement of male co-signers for female entrepreneurs. And this ability to own, operate, and open businesses was a critical point in women's history. And I can safely say 6 years into business ownership, when we look at women's history, women's future still needs people to co-sign. We still need people to bring women into the rooms where decisions are being made, to take into consideration the different factors that impact our lives. And most importantly, we need support to overcome these barriers to success, because when we do that, everyone's futures are brighter. So I want to thank my two most important co-signers, my husband, Corey Alderdice, and my son, Elliot, and of course to all of you for this proclamation and for this honor. Once again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to create those annoying ads that pop up before the videos you actually want to watch online. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This time we have two special guests coming up. National Vietnam War Veterans Day will be presented to Peggy Kemp, Regent of the John Percival chapter of the DHR. And presenting that will be former City Director Steve Smith, who was a veteran of the Vietnam War. Please come forward, and Steve, please read the proclamation and present to Ms. Peggy.
Vietnam War Veterans, March 29th, 2023 is the day. Whereas the Vietnam War was a lengthy and costly conflict that occurred from November 1st, 1955 till April 30th, 1975, and whereas the U.S. involvement in Vietnam started slowly with an initial deployment of advisors in the early 1950s, grew incrementally, through the early 1960s, and expanded with the deployment of full combat units in July 1965. The last U.S. personnel were evacuated from Vietnam. I was right here.
Okay. Whereas the Veterans Memorial was dedicated in 1982 in Washington, D.C., inscribed with the names of 57,939 members of the U.S. Armed Forces who had died or were missing as a result of the war. And whereas the Department of Veterans Affairs estimates today that there are more than 7 million U.S. Vietnam veterans living in America and abroad, along with 10 million families of those who have served during this time frame. And whereas March 29th was chosen to be observed in perpetuity as March 29, 1973, was the day the United States Military Assistance Command in Vietnam was disestablished and the day the last U.S. combat troops departed Vietnam. And whereas this national commemoration was authorized by Congress, established under the Secretary of Defense, and launched by the President to thank and honor our nation's Vietnam veterans and their families for their service and sacrifice, with distinct recognition of former prisoners of war and families of those still listed as missing in action. And now, therefore, I, Pat McCabe, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim March 29, 2023 as National Vietnam War Veterans Day in Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Daughters of the American Revolution are always proud to recognize and honor all our veterans, but especially we wanted to get this proclamation for the Vietnam veterans who, when they returned home, did not always receive the honor and respect they deserved. And we can't tell you how much we appreciate your service.
Thank you. Late this afternoon, I'd asked, I had a person with the city reach out and ask Steve Smith to come and read that, and I think it was important to have a Vietnam veteran read that or attempt to read that versus having myself read that or somebody who did not serve. And we can certainly appreciate the internal pain and suffering and struggles of the Vietnam vets who remain with us each and every day. So always give your support and love to those who have served. Thank you.
Amen.
This time we'll hear from Mr. Burrow with the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. One is I had a couple of phone calls this morning based on the article that was in the Sentinel Record today regarding the Community Resource Center. And when we went through your unfunded capital, we had like $4.5 million on that particular sheet. I did not change those from the time we originally talked about that to what, you know, we've come to learn that it could be. So I want to make sure that as you look at those in your ratings, that you're using about 1.2 million. We believe if we're fortunate enough to find a facility for $750,000 that with another few hundred thousand we'll be able to do the renovations we need and some of the HVAC. And actually it has, if it's this building, it has good HVAC today, but they're 20 years old, so we want to budget, you know, for something there. But I want to make sure that when you look at that, that you're kind of looking in that range of $1 million to 1.2 million for a facility. And as we mentioned, you know, that's something that we can grow into, but the resources that are needed today, we could almost start those immediately. So had a couple of calls and wanted to clarify that. The police department is asking city employees to wear blue on Friday, March 10th for the Blue for Brent in remembrance of Corporal Brent Scrimshire, who we lost on March 10th, 2020 in the line of duty. It's hard to believe that's been 3 years. In some cases it seems like it was just days ago. Saturday, April 8th from 9 a.m. to noon, the Parks and Trails Department is partnering with the Stormwater Division, Keep Arkansas Beautiful, Arkansas Master Naturalist Diamond Lakes Chapter, and Hot Springs Friends of the Park to host an annual cleanup along Hot Springs Creek Greenway Trail. They'll be picking up litter and debris along the trail. They'll also be planting some flower beds at Rotary Centennial Trailhead, which is at 411 Hollywood Avenue. Participants can sign in to receive a free t-shirt, gloves, trash bags while supplies last. And again, they can meet there at the 411 Hollywood Avenue if they're interested in that cleanup. The first Operation Clean Sweep has begun. The first operation here started yesterday and will run through March the 24th. It'll cover 431 address points between Henderson and Leonard Streets and between Summer Street and Higdon Ferry Road. Looking back to the week of February 20th, we also had several inspections, like 360 individual housing inspections at the Housing Authority apartments on Illinois Street and on Spring and Illinois. We want to make sure we'd had some complaints over there. We wanted to go through and make sure there weren't any type of life safety issues with any of those facilities in the interior of the building, such as bad wiring, plumbing issues. We did find some things. Majority of those were things like doors and smoke alarms. But we're working with the Housing Authority and their maintenance group to get those resolved. We still have, I think, a couple of hundred units to still inspect, and we'll be doing that once we get through the clean sweep that I just mentioned a moment ago. A couple other cleanups. One of the very popular things that we do is spring fling. We'll replace some of the roll-off containers in every district that we have, all 6 districts. Usually put out 2 roll-offs in 2 separate locations in each district. I think last year we collected somewhere around 250 tons from the city itself and about 285 throughout the community, counting some of the county collections. So that's going to be happening on April the 29th. So if you need to do some spring cleaning, that'll be the time that you'll be able to do that. May 20th, the following month, we'll have the household hazardous waste collection that is typically held out at the fairgrounds. I joined more than half of our Hot Springs Police SWAT team, including our K9 Bear, along with Interim Chief Police Billy Harverton and former Chief Chris Chapman, in taking the Hot Springs Polar Plunge for Special Olympics of Arkansas. Director Garcia and the rest of the board members, you actually helped raise some of those funds. We were able to raise $2,000 for the 3rd annual Polar Plunge event, and the local event raised more than $11,000. So that was a big chunk of what they raised was through your help and the help of the SWAT team. And SOAR reported that $246,000 was raised nationwide. So it's a great event, really cold, but really fun.
I have pictures.
The Hot Springs Police Department, though, did want me to send its special appreciation to you, Director Garcia, for all the efforts that you did during that time in helping the SWAT team over the last couple of years. So thank you. At the recent quarterly meeting of the Ouachita River Valley Association, the ORVA board, Deputy City Manager Denny McFate was voted onto that board. For those of you who don't know, they were very instrumental in helping us with our Lake Ouachita water allocation. It's the oldest water lobbying firm in the country. They've been in existence 128 years. I was fortunate enough to serve on that board for a little over a decade, and glad to see Denny stepping into that role moving forward. Last thing I want to mention is some of the water distribution leadership changes that we've had. We recently had Steve McEarl retire. Steve's been with us a long time, and he's moving on to assume duties in July with the North Garland County water group up there. But Travis Emmett has been an employee in the utilities department for over 37 years, and he has moved into that role. Very excited to be in that position as our as our distribution manager. He's a wealth of knowledge. I told Monty that after Travis, we kind of hit that gap of 25, 30 year, 35 year employees to some that haven't been here as long. So told him just tie somebody's belt loop to Travis over the next 4 or 5 years and make sure that he's learning all that information that Travis has. So really excited for Travis. And then we have coming behind him as the water superintendent, taking his prior position, is Keith Kimmery. And Keith's been with us a long time as well. He's a 20-year employee as well. He's got his grade 4 water distribution license and also a former crew leader. And then BJ Hatton was promoted into his position. So a lot of times those guys don't get all the accolades that they deserve. I can tell you that 2 of the people on this list, I've actually seen water frozen to their beards. So really, really proud of them. Mayor, that's all I have.
Very good. Thank you. Now we'll hear from individual directors regarding upcoming events. Do we have any upcoming events? Bill, I'm going to ask, Director Webb.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to give a reminder to Hot Springs residents and voters that the window for submitting your application to serve on advisory boards and committees is closing March 15th. There are around, I think, 33 positions available to serve on, so I encourage you to visit our city's website to look over all these opportunities and to determine where you could best serve. Your application can be submitted electronically or by paper, and again, March 15th is the application deadline.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor?
Director Garcia.
Along that lines, since that was brought up, I received some requests since the last two planning commission meetings for March and February were canceled, if applicants that were planning to attend those meetings, because on the application for the planning commission, it asked to attend the meeting prior to the interviews, and since those were canceled, they haven't had an opportunity to attend a meeting. So if we interview on the 28th, there's not another meeting till later in next month. So if that would be given consideration to waive that requirement.
Mayor, I think you'll be able to, as you interview the applicants and decide who's going to fill those roles, I think you'll have the ability to waive that requirement.
We could also encourage those to watch archived meetings so that they understand the process.
Thank you.
Good point.
Very good. Any other upcoming events?
It's more of an announcement.
Please.
Besides the Porches on Parade for St. Patrick's, the Garland County courts are offering an amnesty period starting March 13th. If you have outstanding warrants, it's a time to be able to go in there and get that taken care of and without threat of being arrested. So some of these shady-looking folks there. But it's a good program.
Yeah, there is some details associated with that, so there's some fees related to that do go against your outstanding financial obligations, and so it is certainly an olive branch that's being extended in order to give you an opportunity to take care of business. I know that some people get caught up in that and they miss a date and then they forget about it, and all of a sudden they get pulled over on a traffic violation and off they go. So, and Bill, help me out here. We did this 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. Oaklawn, I think, is having their COVID booster. Is that still in the future?
It is. Actually, we sent out a flyer today regarding that. So that's free COVID shots.
I think it's booster only, though, right?
I think they have the first shots as well.
Okay.
I'll tell you at the end of the meeting.
We'll get that back to the public.
Right.
So we'll move on to the consent agenda. And these are of a routine nature and do not merit individual discussion. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by Director Garcia. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is adopted. We have 3 items under new business, 2 resolutions and 1 ordinance, and we'll begin with Resolution R-23-43 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-23-43, a resolution approving change order number 2 to the agreement with Home Group, Inc. for the construction of Phase 3 of the water treatment plant as part of the Lake Ouachita Water Supply Project. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt. Director
So
Trustee, seconded by Director Dobbs-Smith. And our staff report will be provided by Engineering Project Manager, Mr. Todd Pillar. Welcome.
Thank you, and good evening. This resolution is for a change order to the Tone Group, who's building our new water plant off Amity Road. And just to recap a little bit, this is the 3rd contract for our water plant. The first contract was for our site and grading contract that we built our 2 4 million gallon backwash lagoons and put perimeter fencing around it to secure the site. Our second contract was for the 3 million gallon clear well, and the clear well is full and it is ready for use. Everything's been tested, everything's good. So the third contract is to build the water plant itself, and this is by Tome. And this change order we're bringing to you this evening is to minimize our risk during the next couple of years, because the equipment items that I'm going through the submittal stage right now, and the equipment items that are going to be purchased are 50 to 60 weeks delivery. So we want to minimize our risk for the city on long-term equipment items. This change order also will eliminate any price escalations for equipment, fuel, or anything like that, freight that is associated with those equipment items. The change order is for a lump sum amount of $1,587,604. And with this change order to the total contract, it is still $8 million less than the next lowest bidder on our water plant. The change order will be funded from the board-approved water bond fund.
Any questions to Mr. Pillar?
Just one to
Director
thank you
Garcia.
for keeping all the pieces moving. I know you've got a lot of moving parts there and looking out for the best interest for the city to get these contracts in place. Thank you.
Thank you. I try.
You do. You do a great job. Thank you.
Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll. I'm sorry.
I thought
No, we got, did we have anybody sign up for this?
No, sir.
No? Any discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Director Holliday? Aye. Beard?
Aye.
Dobbs Smith?
Aye.
Webb?
Aye.
Garcia?
Aye.
Trustee?
Aye.
Mayor McCabe?
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Now we'll consider Resolution R-23-44, and ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-23-44, a resolution declaring a certain structure located at 105 Erie Street a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Webb, second by Director Garcia, and Mr. Mike Scott, Chief Building Official, will be providing the staff report.
Thank you, sir. Pursuant to Arkansas Fire Prevention Code Volume 2 and the City of Hot Springs Property Maintenance Code Chapter 1, the Planning Department proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family residence structure at 105 Erie Street. According to Section 116 of the Building Code, it states, structures or existing equipment that are hereby become unsafe, insanitary, deficient because of inadequate means of egress facilities, inadequate light and ventilation, of which constitute a fire hazard or otherwise dangerous to human life or the public welfare, or that involve illegal or improper occupancy or inadequate maintenance, shall be deemed an unsafe condition. Unsafe structures shall be taken down and removed or made safe as the building official deems necessary and as provided for in this section. A vacant structure that is not secured against entry shall be deemed unsafe. This current house at 105 Erie, we've had a file on it since 2006. Since 2014, we have been actively sending letters trying to get the owner to repair or work on the property with no luck. Last year, we tore down a house owned by him adjacent to this one. We thought that it would surely spur some interest in him to repair this one. No work at all has been done, and so we're bringing this one to you tonight. And given that the structure has been inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive damage to the roof, foundation, and other structural damage, the structure poses public health and safety risk to anyone who enters onto the property, as well as creates a nuisance to the neighboring properties. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to take
to make repairs to stabilize even after adjacent structure was removed, and having no reasonable alternative, the planning department staff recommends that the structure should be raised and removed.
Are there any questions of Mr. Scott? Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Scott, I don't disagree with your decision here, but just to kind of clarify, I guess, procedural steps that you take in trying to reach these property owners. In this case, it looks like there was some certified mail that went out in July of 2015 where the property owner did receive this mail. He did sign it. That was all confirmed here. And you've been, you know, attempting to rectify this issue in this matter since 2006. It looks like it hasn't taken any steps forward. And, you know, for the sake of ensuring public safety, you're making, you know, the best decision in your opinion on this matter. The question I have for you is if you have trouble contacting somebody, you know, and I know there's several ways that you can reach out to property owners. Of course, you've got mail, you've got phone, you've got email available, and, you know, maybe some other electronical type ways to reach owners. What happens if you never hear back from somebody? How do you guarantee that maybe there isn't some disconnect in your attempt trying to reach this person, like you haven't got the best address to reach this person as to where he or she is, or this property owner? What happens if you can't get confirmation that they're receiving your letters or receiving your phone calls? What are some other steps you can take to get your communication out to this property owner?
Director, why don't I address that?
Thank you.
What the law requires. The law requires us to send notification to the address that they have on file at the assessor's office for the property in question. If we cannot locate them, if we never get a green card back, then we engage what's called an attorney ad litem. And that attorney ad litem then goes through another process of using the same address. If he or she does not get a return address, then there's a warning order that's published in the newspaper. That's what's required by law.
We post the properties as well, the front door and anywhere that obviously could be seen if somebody drove by.
Very good. Director Garcia?
Unfortunately, it's my understanding this property owner has had, we had other condemnations due to non-action on the property owners. And there's been other properties owned by the same property owner that are in your files now, aren't they?
Yes, ma'am.
And I've received complaints, and they were properties not in my district, but people that said the properties are having illegal activities occur on them because nobody can live in them. Mr. City Attorney, when there is a huge issue or amount that a property owner continues to have the city spend the money, is that all the action that can be taken?
Well, the city files a lien, obviously. Those liens are valid for 10 years. And at the option of the city could foreclose on those liens if it's in the best interest of the city to do so. Usually it's not. If the property changes hands, then in order for that legal title, clear title to pass, our liens have to be paid. You know, an example that occurred today, and it occurs quite frequently, if this property were one that was capable of being salvaged, someone would contact us interested in paying the liens and going through the process of obtaining ownership themselves through foreclosure. We have situations like that happen quite frequently. One today on one that's on the list for a future condemnation. I know that this particular property owner has been a subject of the board's consideration on multiple occasions in the past, and occupies a lot of file space downstairs.
Well, I have heard from a nonprofit that if they could obtain those properties, that they would build housing for low-income or workers in our city.
Yes, ma'am.
And is that a reason to foreclose?
It could be, yes. We could assign our liens to that organization, and that organization could then go through the foreclosure process. And that has occurred in the past as well.
Okay, because I believe the taxes are being paid, but the liens usually, a lot of times in these instances, end up being more than just the land is worth after we have to demolish something. So I appreciate that update on the information. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you,
Any
Brian.
further questions or comments? Did we have anybody sign up to speak?
No, sir.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of Resolution R 2344, declaring a certain structure at 105 Erie Street a nuisance and condemning same? 105 Erie Street. There's none, Mayor.
Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday. Aye. Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. Our final action of this evening is to consider ordinance O-23-07. Now entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Webb. All those in favor of the motion to suspend the rules and read by title only signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance O-23-07, an ordinance authorizing an agreement with Regions Equipment Finance Corporation to provide short-term financing under Amendment 78 to the Arkansas Constitution for certain 2023 capital acquisitions, declaring an emergency and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Dobbs Smith, seconded by
Second.
Director Trustee. Our staff report will be provided by Director of Finance, Ms. Karen Scott. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. The city seeks to obtain financing for capital items approved in the 2023 budget as follows. $140,000 for computer servers, $37,000 for playground equipment, $699,000 for vehicles, $475,000 for heavy equipment, $103,000 in special equipment, and $830,000 for a fire pumper truck. During the budget process, these items were identified as being financed by borrowing funds rather than using current operating funds. A request for financing proposal was issued in January, and responses were received from 5 responsive bidders. The bids were evaluated, and Regions Equipment Finance Corporation has provided the most favorable bid at 22 basis points above the 5-year Treasury at the time of the loan. The 5-year Treasury was 4.09% on February 17th, 2023, so the rate would be 4.31%. For purposes of comparison, the rates on the 2021 and 2022 financing were 1.13% and 1.824% respectively. The higher rate obviously reflects the changes in the market. Budget for debt service was approved based on a 6% interest rate. It would be in the city's best interest to declare this as an emergency so that funding could take place immediately and minimize market volatility. Staff recommends approval of selection of Regions Equipment Finance Corporation to provide financing for approved 2023 capital items in an amount not to exceed $2.284 million. The term of the loan will be 5 years. This recommendation is pursuant to State of Arkansas Amendment 78, authorizing cities to obtain short-term financing.
Very good. Any questions of Ms. Scott? Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. Karen, I believe it said 22 basis points over the 5-year Treasury bill.
Correct.
In the actual ordinance, it says not to exceed 5 basis points above the 5-year Treasury bill. That's in Section 2, and I'm sorry I didn't see that this afternoon and call you about that. But I think we'll need to change that 5 basis points to 22 basis points in Section 2 of the ordinance. I mean, I read over this afternoon and I didn't see it until just now. So can we amend the ordinance to?
Yes, sir. Would you like to put that in the form of a motion? Motion to amend Section 2 of ordinance to state,
At a fixed rate not to exceed 22 basis points above the 5-year Treasury bill on March 8th. I'll
Second.
make that motion.
We got a motion by Director Trustee to go up from 5 basis points to 22 basis points. Do I have a second? Director Garcia, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. Ordinance is, or the
Amendment.
ordinance is amended.
Should I-
Director Garcia.
And I must have missed it, but how much is coming off of our debt from,
The principal balances at 1/1/2023 were 4.5 million. There's 27, I don't have the amortization schedules for all of the debt, for how much is going to be retired this year of the principal, I'm sorry.
no, that was how much we had retired in 22.
I don't have that schedule with me.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought it was going to be in our packet, and I thought I'd missed it.
I must have misunderstood. I thought you wanted to know what the principal balances of each outstanding debt obligation was.
Right. I sent that.
I can certainly get you that information.
Yeah, I was just in what came off and what we're adding on, and see how, I wanted to see the trends, because I think you had how much is over the next 5 years, what the total balances were. But, yeah, if you could just send that,
Yeah, Karen, you
would
can just
appreciate it.
send that to all of us.
Yes.
please, or through Bill.
Of course.
Just for clarification, you want to know how much debt is going to be retired in 2023? Or how much was retired in
What we
2022?
retired in 22, what we're adding in 23 in our current balance for the next, you had the remaining balance for what was left on what had been put in place. So we retired some.
Okay.
And we were adding, are we adding more than we retired, or the other way? Or
Okay.
even? Thank you.
Any additional questions of Ms. Scott? Thank you. Do we have anybody sign up?
No, sir.
Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday. Aye. Beard.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted, and we do have an emergency clause.
yes, we do, Mayor. That's contained in Section 6, which I'll read in its entirety. Section 6, Emergency Clause. The Board of Directors hereby determines that the initiation of procurement and acquisition of the equipment here and above set forth are essential to the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the city and must be financed as quickly as possible. An emergency is therefore declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after the date of its execution. That concludes the reading of the emergency clause. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Director Trustee, seconded by Director Garcia. Any discussion? Hearing none, please. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion's adopted. Emergency clause adopted. Thank you. At this time, we have board commentary. Any board member have items for discussion? Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to give a shout out to our sanitation workers. I received compliments. We've had, for them, we've had a lot of rain, and on a lot of in my neighborhood and in South Hot Springs, our trash days has had some of the big pour downs of rain at the time that the sanitation's making their rounds, and they have been so helpful in helping people get their garbage out and going the extra mile. And I just want to know them to know how much they're appreciated and all the compliments I've received on their service and going beyond what's required. Thank you.
Any additional board comments? Director, City Manager Bill Burrow.
Mayor, to get back with you on the COVID event that's happening, the COVID vaccine event that's happening at Oaklawn Racetrack, Saturday, March 18th from 11 to 4. You'll be able to have your first, second shots as well as boosters. Of course, if you need a booster, you would have had to have had your vaccine, it looks like, for at least 2 months prior to the booster qualification. And I want to say that they'll also be doing flu vaccines as well. So any of your COVIDs, first, second, or boosters, as well as flu shots.
Very nice. And when is that again?
That is March the 18th from 11 to 4 at Oaklawn.
Right after St. Patty's Day.
Beginning of spring.
10 days away.
Very close.
Very good. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Director Garcia, seconded by
Second.
Director Dobb Smith. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you all.
Have you noticed that there